I'm Ken Beattie, and I'm a writer. I'm traveling the world looking for relationships between people and plants. We all know how important plants are to our lives. They give us shelter, food, medicine, and clothing. But plants not only give us life, they enhance our lives. They make the world and everybody in it smell better. Plants contribute to some of the most beautiful natural aromas on Earth. Today's show is about plants for perfume. I'll be visiting the south of France in a city called Grasse, where some of the most exquisite perfumes in the world are made. But first, to Egypt, where the use of perfume first started. Cairo is the capital city of Egypt. It's also the largest city in Africa. Most of the 16.5 million people here speak Arabic, and most follow the Muslim religion. As I made my way through the marketplace, I couldn't help but notice a strong presence of security police. I enjoyed this marketplace. It was noisy and crowded, bustling, yet very friendly. Egyptian men, women, and children alike are all very generous with their smiles. Most historians agree that it was here in Egypt that perfume originated. Jocelyn Goberty is a British-born Egyptologist. She's lived in Cairo for the past 15 years.
In a hot country like Egypt, it was necessary for people to use a lot of oil and perfume for their skin and for their hair because of the dryness of the climate. And obviously they must have considered that this would be necessary in the next world as well.
Myrrh is one of the earliest scents that was used in ancient Egypt. I visited the tomb of Queen Hatshepsut. Now, she was one of only 2 female pharaohs in all of Egypt. On the walls of her temple are hieroglyphs depicting a voyage of slaves to Punt. These slaves were in search of myrrh trees to be brought back and planted in Egypt. At one time, the trees completely surrounded this temple. The myrrh, along with other plants, were used in the ritual of mummification. Once the organs were removed from the dead body, the scented plants were used to wash and cleanse the body cavity.
During the actual funeral, large quantities, especially in the case of members of the royal family, of perfumed oils were actually poured over the body, which has sometimes created problems with modern discoveries of bodies and unwrapping of mummies, where the substances have reacted to make a sort of hard shell around the bandaged body.
It wasn't just in death that the ancient Egyptians used scent, they also enjoyed it in life too. In a reproduction of a hieroglyph that was found on the walls of a noble person's tomb, Egyptian women are depicted wearing a kind of crown or party hat on their heads.
They weren't exclusively provided for women, but were actually apparently given to anyone who arrived at some kind of party celebration, and have generally been considered to be lumps of perfumed fat or wax, which were placed on the head with the idea that as the party progressed and things sort of warmed up, in various different ways, then this delightful perfumed oil would gradually trickle down the head and face and onto the shoulders of the guest, making, of course, a very pleasant perfume surrounding the person, but also having a cooling effect at the same time.
Jocelyn told me that many of the oils and spices that were used for scent in ancient Egypt are still available in the marketplace today. Many of the shops along the alleyway are devoted to the business of scent. I found cinnamon, cardamom, allspice, frankincense. I even found one called Tutankhamun, which I think might be the recreation of the kaifi that was found in the pharaoh's tomb. My name is Ken.
Welcome, Mr. Ken. My name is Mohammed.
Mohammed, nice to meet you. I'm looking for essential oils for perfume, old essential oils. Mohammed El-Hinawi owns this tiny shop with his brother. He sells many of the same kinds of perfume oils that originated here in ancient Egypt. He had lily oil, lotus, jasmine, and rose, so we went outside to try them. Oh, it's nice and warm out here.
Yeah, this is the salad,
They're beautiful.
This one is the jasmine.
From the jasmine flower?
Yeah. This is all this plant.
We sampled the different fragrances, and I learned it's important to wait, because you can only smell the true heart of an essence after it's been on your skin for a while. But I had to make my decision, because I was running out of room on my arm, so I chose double jasmine, rose, and myrrh, possibly the same fragrances that Queen Hatshepsut might have used. As I left the marketplace that day, I realized that since the very beginning of civilization, people have always had a connection with plants for perfume. From the tombs of the pharaohs to the busy markets of Cairo, plants for perfume have evolved with civilization and spread around the world. When we come back, we'll visit the Perfume Museum in the south of France to trace that journey. For 200 years, the city of Grasse has been the center of the world's perfume industry. Today, it's a city of about 42,000 people, spread across hills and valleys in the south of France. Here the soil is rich and fertile, with long hours of sunshine and ample amounts of rain. It's just perfect for growing flowers. It's no wonder we find the International Perfume Museum here. It's nestled right next to the wall that originally surrounded the city back in the 15th century. It's home to some 5,000 perfume bottles from all over the world, dating back to the early Egyptians.
It's in alabaster. It's a beautiful stone, a precious stone. And this was keeping cold what was inside. Because you know that in Egypt it was very hot and warm. And the thing was to keep the essence and the perfume very cold.
Agathe Miseret is educated in the history of perfume. She has catalogued the museum's entire collection. She says the history of society is reflected in the evolution of perfume use and portrayed by these bottles. After the Egyptian comes the Greek period. Perfume was stored in ceramic vases and jars, mostly because the perfume itself was still kind of a waxy paste. During the Roman period, metal or pewter jugs were introduced. These jugs were used to contain a kind of perfumed wine, mead made with honey and cloves. Eventually, the Romans rediscovered glass containers.
This is very important for the perfume because when you have a perfume, you can fill a bottle and change what is inside.
So that's a major step.
Yes, it was easy to produce this glass and they can throw it away easily also and make it new bottles.
Here, the history of perfume skips hundreds of years. It was the Dark Ages, and few people were interested in making perfume or bottles to store it in. But by the 16th and 17th centuries, perfume and bottles were back.
See this one, there are two different bottles in one hand like this, and that was supposed to keep happiness. So you see the goal of the perfume was to smell something good, of course, but also keep happiness, protect from disease or different things. Perfume was really powerful.
So powerful was the allure of perfume at this time that even during the French Revolution, Marie Antoinette went into hiding with this huge wooden chest containing 53 personal toiletry items.
She prepared it during the revolution, when she was supposed to hide. She was discovered because of that and arrested after. And you know the following suite, she was in prison. But she couldn't hide without her strict necessary.
From here we go to the 18th century, about the time Grasse was becoming an important center for perfume oils.
You have also different ladies who wanted to get wonderful bottles, and you have here different bottles of the 18th century with lovely shape also. You see the courtesan around the king were a very nice lady, and they were often receiving gifts from men to be seduced.
Oh, perfume and seduction seems to be...
Yes, altogether, especially in the 18th century.
And what's next over here?
Yes, the next are the 19th century bottles, and they are very interesting also because they used to contain salts. In fact, the ladies were very tight in their corset like this.
I could use one.
And they couldn't breathe normally, so sometimes they fainted. So they had to smell these different salts that you can see here, and they were very strong, and they could wake up and breathe normally again. But sometimes it was strategy to faint in nice arms, for example, you can imagine.
By the 19th century, the shape of the perfume bottle loses importance. It was no longer an art form. Industry produced a simpler bottle for mass production. What became more important was the label and the name of the factory where the perfume was made. By the 20th century, perfume ranked right up there with the socially elite and high fashion designers.
For example, Paul Poiret. Paul Poiret was a very famous couturier in Paris, and he decided to make perfume and to make a gift to his best client.
And your perfume, your favorite perfume? You have
Oh, my favorite perfume is just here. It is the number 5 from Chanel. And as you can see, the bottle and the shape of the bottle is very simple, and it's still fashionable here. It's still nowadays the number 1 of the sales now in the world, the number 5 of Chanel.
Really?
Yes, really.
That's amazing.
And it was a great smell at the same time because it was a mixing with flowers, beautiful flowers of Grasse.
The most famous and beautiful flowers in Grasse are the Rose du Mai. For hundreds of years, these flowers have flourished in the soils of southern France. Recently, it's become harder to get enough flowers to meet the demand. It takes 1 ton of Rose du Mai petals to make 1 liter of Rose Absolute. In the 18th century, early perfumes in Grasse were made from just 1 flower, like the rose, jasmine, or orange blossom.
It all started with leather manufacturers here at the beginning, and the leather manufacturers suddenly got orders from a king or small king in Italy who wanted perfume gloves. So the perfume gloves really started the tradition of perfumes in Grasse.
Today, perfume is made from both raw and synthetic materials. Both are very important. Han Bodefay is president of the French Perfume Association. He says without synthetic products, perfumes would all smell the same.
To achieve and to diversify our perfumery today, the perfumes, to make them a little bit more modern, we need also artificial ingredients. We need them. They don't replace the naturals, but it's like you add colors to your painting.
Just outside of Grasse are the factories of Man Fragrance. Man is one of 60 perfume companies in the area and one of the oldest and largest. Jean Man is the chairman of the company and the great-grandson of the founder.
Fragrance is an architecture, it's a recipe, if I may say. And it is a pure product of a human creation or human emotion. This recipe calls for the blending of certain raw materials in very precise amounts.
Ingredients for perfume comes from anywhere in the world, from China to Vietnam, from Brazil to Haiti. No longer can the Grasse countryside support the huge demand for raw materials. Everything from cinnamon to carrots, from tobacco to iris roots, celery, oak moss, hay, and black pepper, all used to make perfume. There are 2 ways of obtaining scent from these raw materials: steam distillation and extraction. Black pepper, for instance, is steam distilled to make a kind of oil or butter. Black pepper, as you can imagine, is used in many spicy perfumes, like Coco by Chanel and Opium by Yves Saint Laurent. The raw peppercorns are poured into the distillation machine, steam is forced through the pepper, and the condensation then separates into water and oil. The end product sits in an essential oil decanter. Extraction is the other method used, because the end product is different. Here, workers load piles of fresh oak moss, earthy and green, into the extraction bins. Oak moss is used in perfumes like Polo by Ralph Lauren and Fahrenheit by Christian Dior. Liquid or gas solvents will be mixed with the oak moss to draw the aromatic substances out. The solvents are completely removed by washing and vacuuming, and the end product is called a concrete. Concrete is even further processed to obtain an absolute. This is the most expensive and purest form of an extract from a natural source. Natural absolutes are the heart of every perfume. Without them, we just don't have a fragrance. Absolute is highly prized. Now, just 1 kilo of iris root absolute is worth $40,000. All this is done to make the best products possible to please the people who make the perfume. They're called le nez. the noses, and you'll meet one when we come back. While much of the perfume industry relies on sophisticated technology these days, the most important thing is still done very basically and very simply. Creating the recipe for new perfumes is all done by simply smelling, with, yes, the nose.
Le nez is a strange beast. The chemist that I am sometimes can conflict with Le Nez. But Le Nez is an artist. He's a pure emotion. He is somebody who creates.
Every morning, Jean-Marie Saint-Antony sits at his desk and sniffs. Now he's a nez. He smells pure absolutes, essences of flowers and raw materials from all over the world, and he imagines how these fragrances might go together. That's simply how new perfumes are created. French tradition calls him le nez, the nose, but I'm told it's more proper these days to refer to him as the perfumer. There are only about 200 real perfumers in the world, people with the ability to recognize and differentiate between hundreds of raw scents.
To be a perfumer, first it's necessary to have a good olfactive memory, to be creative, to have a lot of patience and a strong morale.
Patience is essential. It can take Jean-Marie 2 years, maybe more, to come up with a new scent that'll please a client. And a good moral? Because the perfume business is big business and very competitive.
The worldwide sales of fragrance ingredients are about $6 billion.
Jean-Marie has had some perfume successes. He created Escape by Calvin Klein and Polo by Ralph Lauren. His day-to-day job is to create a new fragrance for companies like these on demand. Han Bodefay says it's the market that often dictates the scent.
The companies who put the product on the market send us a brief. We work on the brief and they say, well, we want a perfume which smells so and can be usable for pretty women between 25 and 35 years, blue eyes, and and so it's quite a precise description of the perfume they want.
Creating a scent is like a layering of musical notes. All perfumes have 3 notes. The different scents Jean-Marie tries must blend together in harmony, enhancing each other. No one note should stand out from the other.
When you open a bottle, you smell generally a fresh top note, a fresh ingredient. And when you smell just at the beginning, for example, the lemon oil is a top note, the bergamot oil is a top note, the tangerine is a top note, and this top note is evaporate quickly.
The middle note is the heart of the fragrance. These are always made from pure raw materials and often spicy things like black pepper, rose oil, and galbanum. The middle notes you'll smell 1 to 4 hours after you put it on your skin. The bottom or woody notes are made from materials like oak moss and vanilla, and these you smell only as they dry down, 5 to 10 hours later. I asked Jean-Marie where he gets his inspiration.
L'inspiration peut venir à tout moment. Il n'y a pas ça peut être quand vous êtes dans votre jardin en disant tiens, j'aimerais associer telle note avec telle autre. Ça peut être quand vous regardez un beau paysage en montagne, quand vous êtes au bord de la rivière ou au bord de la mer. L'inspiration peut venir comme un peintre. Si vous voyez un beau paysage, ça peut vous inspirer.
Approximately 200 new perfumes hit the marketplace every year. Only a few will be hits and become big sellers for the companies. It's a business that requires huge amounts of money.
To launch a perfume today on a worldwide basis, it will cost you about $50 million.
What makes a bad day for a perfumer?
A bad day is when you have, quand on est enrhumé.
A cold?
Yeah. A bad day when we have a cold.
Once Jean-Marie's job is complete and his perfume formula has been accepted by a client, the recipe comes over here. This is the crown room, and technicians here will take Jean-Marie's recipe and produce the perfume in large volumes. There are more than 400 different scents and flavors in these spouts. Man Fragrance not only makes perfumes, but also flavors and scents for everything from yogurt and dish soap to gasoline.
It's mainly a secret for gasoline. So I will speak about shampoo or things like that if you want.
You won't tell me the secret, eh?
No,
So
no,
but you're adding, you're making a perfume or a special scent?
Yeah.
Why?
In fact, if you smelled gasoline, it's not very good odor. So we try to mask the odor, to minimize the wrong odor of gasoline by adding odor mask. I don't know the term.
Okay.
My English is not so perfect.
A mask to cover it up. That's
Yeah.
good too. Upstairs, Eric showed me the huge vats containing the hundreds of individual raw materials used in creating scent and flavors. 6 full-time firemen are employed at Man Fragrance. You can imagine they're a little sensitive here about explosions and the flammability of the material they use. Eric Padovani has worked here for 7 years. He never thought his university chemistry degree would lead to a job so fulfilling.
Perfumes, it's odor connected to love, to feelings, to women, things like that. So for me, it's very important to work in such industry because we are in connection with the earth, raw materials coming from the earth, harvested by human people. So it's very powerful for me, that feeling.
The pursuit of aromatic plants from the earth has influenced history. From the voyages of early Egyptians to obtain highly prized myrrh trees, to the capture of Marie Antoinette and her personal perfume case, to the sale of $40 billion worth of perfume a year worldwide.
I think the earth gives what it can do best, and if you're attuned to your environment, if you understand what you're doing, if you're faithful to your roots, I think even the plant may react to the love that it is given.
When you smell the rose de mai in May, and you have, the smell is truly terrific, you know, it's something that gets, it's very strong, and it's a small bud, it's a very small bud. So transforming this into an actual absolute and a perfume, I think it's wonderful. I think it's what man can do with nature.
Scent is powerful. Imagine how you yourself are influenced to feel different emotions just by what you smell. Scent can recapture memories of times gone by. It allows you to express yourself, and scent can even speak to your soul. I'm Ken Beattie. Join me next time as we journey through the Earth's Garden.